Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We are doing a sort of an impromptu live stream. I was digging into a bill this morning, a Washington state bill, and it's pretty important. And I wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. And doing it live is really the fastest and easiest. And for me, it's the most fun because I get to chat with you guys. So, welcome. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know, I'm Julie Barrett. I'm the founder of Conservative Ladies of America, which started in Washington State as Conservative Ladies of Washington. And this particular bill that we're going to look at is it's very personal to me, and really ties into the reason that I got involved in legislation in the first place, and why I am so passionate about speaking out about these things. Um, so this one is very bad. I'm not going to blow smoke. So if you guys are looking for a rally girl or a cheerleader, that's not me. So we're going to give you the straight truth. I want parents to know. I want citizens to know so that they can protect their families. So thanks for joining us. Let us know in the comments where you're watching us from. Our leadership team, I see in the chat on YouTube, we've got Joy, and Joy is in Kitsap County, and Leslie is also joining us live in the YouTube chat. Leslie is in Republic. So chat them up. They are on our leadership team. They, like me, they dig into these policies, and we're all just very passionate about exposing what's going on in government, letting citizens know, trying to educate and activate citizens so that they can speak up and influence their government as best as possible. And before we dig into the content, I'll just kind of buy a little time here while people are logging on. I was in Washington, D.C. last week on Thursday. I was on the Hill, and it was really my first time, as like I've been to Washington, D.C. before a few times, but never like walking the halls of Congress and meeting with lawmakers. So this was a first experience for me. And I'm not going to lie to you. I felt very discouraged. It felt very dark. It really didn't feel like, they call it the people's house. It really didn't feel like the people's house. It felt like Representative Tim Burchett says it really well. It's a sewer. It's not a swamp, because the swamp is something that God makes, and it's cool, and it has frogs, and it has like all kinds of little ecosystems that are cool. A sewer is man-made, and it's gross, and it's poopy. And so it definitely had just kind of a dark and dirty feeling, but it was a good experience. We met with 6 different lawmakers throughout the course of the day. We got our steps in, and it was overall a positive experience. And I'll have more to share with you on that probably next week, because it looks like they're actually going to be introducing the legislation that we were pitching to them. So that's pretty exciting. I want to say hello to Elaine from Spokane. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate the words of support. And I saw Ephrata in here somewhere. Willow Gem from Ephrata. You guys in Eastern Washington are all joining us. So thank you. And this will be available for replay. So, and it's important. So if you are in Washington, please do share the link to this video so that people can watch it on replay if they didn't catch us live. So without further ado, let's get right into the meat of this bill. This is Senate Bill 5837, and it is about emergency guardianship in Washington State. Now, if you know anything about Washington State's laws pertaining to families and parental rights, anytime you hear guardianship pertaining to a Washington state law, your ears should perk right up, and the alarm should be going off, and the red flags flying. This bill is bad. It is sponsored by Senator Jamie Peterson, and he was the senator who went on I think he was actually on Fox News, and he said that parents shouldn't be able to have any right to know if their daughter, if their 13-year-old daughter had an abortion or needed to have an abortion. It was a pretty damning interview that he gave on Fox News, and it went viral across the country. It was spread far beyond Washington because it was like he actually said the quiet part out loud. So he's the prime sponsor of this bill. And the co-sponsor is Senator Holy. I'm sorry, I forget his first name. Holy is from the Spokane area, and he is a Republican. And even just as these words are coming out of my mouth, it's a gut punch to me. I have like a physical response to knowing that a Republican is on the ticket for sponsoring this bill. Now, one of the things that has been kind of a common theme for me over the last 4 years that I've been involved in legislation, especially in Washington state, is a lot of like the Republican groups, the women's clubs, the GOP, the right-leaning organizations and think tanks would always tell me, well, this bill is co-sponsored by Republicans. It's bipartisan. And so we don't want to say anything bad because there's good Republicans supporting the bill. Wrong. It is our job as citizens to hold our elected officials accountable. And Holy may be a very good person. He might be. This is a very bad policy, and it's the responsibility of the lawmakers who sponsor these policies to be able to defend them. And what I see here is ushering in a framework, a legal framework that will add to, if you guys remember, in 2023, Washington passed Senate Bill 5599. I call it the transgender trafficking, the state-sanctioned kidnapping. This 5837 is the legal framework that they need for 5599. So let's take a trip back in time with 5599. Senate Bill 5599 allows a minor child of any age. So we're not talking about 12 and up, 13 and up, any age. Child of any age can access protected healthcare services, which includes so-called gender affirming care and abortion. These are protected healthcare by law in Washington state. That was made through, I think the new definitions were made through House Bill 1469 also in 2023. So here's what this looks like. Your child goes off to school, and the school is, let's say, socially transitioning your child, and you don't know about it. And the child is working with teachers or a counselor or something at school, and they decide together that your child is going to access gender affirming care. So they find a host home or a youth shelter where your child can live, because your child says, well, my mom and dad, they might not agree with me trying to change my gender. And so the school facilitates your child having housing in a host home or a youth shelter and having access to these services. There's millions and millions of dollars in funding to support Senate Bill 5599's housing. Okay, so now the child is, you send Johnny off on the school bus, and the school sends him off to a host home where he's going to transition and he's going to become Jane. You, the parent, do not get notification. You don't consent. You don't even get notification. And so the way that this law works is if there's a time frame, I forget what it is, where they can eventually alert the parents. However, if they believe that the parents are a danger or won't be supportive to the child, then the parents don't have to be notified at all. Okay, so that's bad enough as it is. Now we have Senate Bill 5837 coming along with emergency guardianship. So I put some red flags together here. So we'll walk through this so that you can see it. And I also have the text of the bill here. So we're going to kind of go back and forth, and I will put this up later today on conservativeladiesofwa.com on the blog, so that if you're not able to grab screenshots throughout this, you can go grab it there, conservativeladiesofwa.com, and click on blog. Okay. So this is a systematic expansion of state and court authority into family life. The first red flag here is in the first section. Now, this particular section is not new. This is an existing law, but it's a huge red flag. And as for me, when we went through our stuff with, when we started going through our stuff with our kids in March of 2021, there were a lot of existing laws that I was not even aware of. When Seattle Children's Hospital sent my minor child off to a homeless youth shelter upon discharge, that's when I quickly learned about the laws and what I could and could not do as a parent. So I wanted to make sure to include this, even though it is existing law, it's important for citizens to know about. So these attorney general is kind of in charge of all of this. The bill text says the attorney general may petition for guardianship or conservatorship when, quote, no private party is able and willing. So what this means is this allows the Attorney General's office to direct the state involvement into your family matters. So even if a relative exists, the state can argue that they were unwilling or unable to step in. And they would likely do this if they had if there's some organization, some queer organization that wanted to help your kid. There's so many, this is so broad, there's just a ton of workarounds. So the red flag in section 1, or rather section 2 of the bill, is that it expands government standing to initiate guardianships bypassing family members. And for our friends in Washington state, you had Governor Ferguson as the attorney general for 12 years. And now you have Nick Brown, who is basically the same thing. So you have all the Democrats in Washington are really advancing this whole LGBTQ transgender thing for the kids. So this is a very dangerous, to have this in the attorney general's office is a very dangerous thing. It's not like you have a red state attorney general who is going to side with parents here. But you might be starting to look next door to Idaho, where you have AG Raul Labrador, who is very conservative and very much willing to hold up the Constitution and parental rights. So something to think about there. Okay, so in section 9, this is my second red flag, we have the emergency guardianships. So the text reads, the courts may appoint emergency guardians without notice if harm is deemed imminent. Hearings must occur within 14 days, but this period may be extended by agreement or for good cause. Now, I want to actually show you the text of the bill here. What pages that was on? I see, I can't see it as well. Okay, forget that. So it does say the word in the bill is may. And when I started looking into legislation, when I first started reading bills, I was working with former state representative Brad Clipper, and he really taught me about these key words that, previously I would have just read over this and it wouldn't really have stuck out to me. But in reading legislation, these words are really important. So the word may is extremely important because basically that says it's optional. They don't have to hold it within 14 days, but they may, and they may extend it for good cause. What's good cause? So parents can lose their authority before they know that a proceeding has begun. Extensions mean guardianships can last weeks or months. So say your child is undergoing some kind of gender care, they can just keep extending it because they can do it they'll consider that a good cause. They are giving the child the care that the child needs, in their opinion. So this creates a window where temporary guardians can authorize irreversible decisions without parental input. This is so, so dangerous. It's so bad. It's so bad. I just can't. I hope if you are watching this and you are someone with pull in the Republican Party in Washington State, in the Senate, Republicans, please talk to Senator Holy or talk to Minority Leader John Braun and ask them to get Holy off of this bill. This is a terrible bill to have Republicans backing and co-sponsoring. Okay, the third red flag is in section 3, and it amends RCW 11.130.195. The text says notice must be given not only to parents and minors, but also to grandparents, siblings, former caregivers, and others. Courts may allow service via email, text, or social media. So the implication for this is you're having maybe a private family dispute and it gets exposed to all of the relatives and the caregivers. There's really no privacy protection built in here. And they're actually expanding the circle of influence here, which is, I don't know how, you may have a good relationship with all your families and caregivers, but I don't know that everybody wants their business put out like this. Alternative service methods lower due process safeguards. So if you are, in the text here, it says they can do it via email, text, or even social media. Can you imagine? Like, what does that look like? I hope it's a DM and not just a post from the DSHS website tagging the parent. It's so crazy, you guys. So this broadens who gets pulled into proceedings, empowering non-parental adults and risking privacy. Now, I just want to, because I know that a lot of people look at this and it just sounds so outlandish and so sensational. And I just want to share a little bit of my personal experience. When my daughter back in 2021 was in the youth shelter, they were working with her to file a CHINS petition, which is a child in need of services. And what that CHINS petition does is it would have made the shelter her legal guardian. And we wouldn't have been able to do anything. Fortunately, we were able to see communications through her Instagram account. And we got there before they were able to get to court on Monday. We learned about it over the weekend. We got there before they went to court. That was 2021. There have been so many new laws put into place that make it even easier for these activist social workers at these shelters and these host homes and in the hospital to help these kids who don't know. They don't know if they don't go into the hospital and say, hey, can you hook me up with like a host home? And can you get me a CHINS petition and cut my parents out of the loop? The kids do not know. It's completely these activists who are involved in the system. So I really want parents to take this very seriously, especially if your kids are in public schools. Unfortunately, and I want to preface this with, I know there are good teachers who do not like what's going on in the education system. I know there are good teachers who are there to teach and educate children, but there are an awful lot of teachers, especially in Washington State. Well, they're everywhere. They are in every state that are, have come up through, the higher education that's been, indoctrinated the teachers so that the teachers can indoctrinate the kids. And so please, the best thing you can do is have lots of conversations with your kids. The very best thing you can do is get your kid out of public schools anywhere, but especially in Washington. Okay. Let's see. We've already done that one. All right. Red flag number 4 is the mandatory court appointed counsel. This is section 4 of Senate Bill 5837, and it amends RCW 11.130.200. The text of the bill reads that courts must appoint attorneys for minors 12 and up if parents object and have counsel. Indigent parents who object must also be appointed counsel. So guardianship disputes automatically escalate into adversarial court battles. Minors gain independent legal advocates who may align with state agendas. And this is another thing that we learned through our own experience. There are a number of LIAC. There's a kids in Seattle. It's a kids. I think they're actually based out of Kirkland, and they're basically lawyers for kids who want to get gender affirming care or just don't want to be with their parents. And they get a lot of state funding, but this actually like escalates this. So any kid over 12 would get a court appointed attorney. And let's remember that in Washington, the courts, well, everywhere, the courts are captured. So you've got leftist courts that are definitely not going to be advocating for the parents. They're going to be working for this agenda. So the red flag here is that this institutionalizes court involvement, ensuring disputes are litigated rather than resolved privately. This is just like, it makes me sick to read this. And I'm so, I just feel so passionate about informing other parents so that you can do whatever it takes to protect your kids so that you don't have to go through what we went through. And as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, since 2021, when we went through our stuff, there have been a number of laws enacted that, like for us, we were able to, the police helped us get our child back. You can't do that anymore. In 2022, they passed Senate Bill 5883, and that basically allows the homeless thing. So moving right along, we have our fifth red flag, the guardian ad litem and court visitor powers. This is in section 3 of the bill, amending RCW 11.130.195. So in the text, the courts must appoint a GAL, a guardian ad litem, or a court visitor to interview minors' parents and proposed guardians and report minors' wishes directly to the court. The implication here is that, again, you have an outsider who's gaining investigative authority and influence over judicial outcomes. The minor's desires, like for the gender affirming care, are reported directly to the judges. Now, something that's really interesting about this particular section of the bill is it gives the guardian ad litem broad investigative powers. So it doesn't just narrow it down to certain aspects of your life or your family that they can investigate. It's very broad. So this creates a pathway for minors' wishes to override parental objections, especially in healthcare disputes. Okay, red flag number 6 is these standby guardianships. This is in section 7, amending RCW 11.130.215. The courts may appoint standby guardians if parents are deemed unlikely to perform duties within 2 years. So this allows a lot of speculation on the part of the judges about the parent's capacity. And if they think that maybe the parents won't allow the gender affirming care into, then they can basically appoint these standby guardians. So it's preemptive state intervention undermining parental authority. All right, red flag number 7 is the retained rights of parents. This is in section 7, amending RCW 11.130.215. The orders must preserve parent-child relationships unless restricted under RCW 26.09.191. So in that RCW 26.09.191, it allows restrictions for abuse, neglect, substance abuse, or emotional harm. Courts have broad discretion to limit parental involvement. So opposition to gender affirming healthcare decisions could be framed as emotional abuse, justifying restrictions. I want to jump to discussing, this is really an important piece of it, because in 2022, the legislature passed House Bill 1901, and this is the coercive control bill. And a lot of people hear the words coercive control and they think of gender affirming care, but it's exactly the opposite. So a coercive control ban means that if you are not affirming whatever the child's chosen gender identity or sexual identity or whatever, if you're not affirming of that, and let's say you're saying, let's wait, you're 12, let's see how you feel in a few years. That's coercive control. And so in the therapy world in Washington state, a lot of things shifted after the coercive control law passed. Well, there was actually one that passed in 2018 that bans therapists from using, requires them to be gender affirming. So that was in 2018. And then the House Bill 1901 was passed in 2022, which added coercive control to domestic violence. So if you are not a gender affirming parent, that is considered domestic abuse, domestic violence. So when you tie that to this provision in Senate Bill 5837, where it's considered abuse, they could appoint an emergency guardian for abuse or emotional abuse. That's where House Bill 1901 really factors in here, because that's already state law. So now they can appoint a guardian just based on that. So you guys, this is very scary stuff, especially with everything that is going on in the public schools in Washington state, where they have really taken out a lot of parent access to children's school records. So that's, I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of the 2022 law about coercive control, which, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I want you guys to hear this. If a parent is not gender affirming, that is considered domestic abuse in Washington state law. Okay, so that would definitely apply here to Senate Bill 5837. All right, let's go back to our red flags. Okay, so I kind of created like this little flow chart of overreach because I wanted to show you the connection with how does this work with 5599 and Senate Bill 5837. So the first thing that happens is the minor is seeking the protected health care, which again, that would be gender affirming care or abortion. They voice that to a counselor or a teacher or whatever. So that's step one, is the minor wants this care. Step number two is the parents say, you know what, I think we need to wait. You're 12. Let's see how you feel in a few years. They're not saying no. They're just, even if they're just saying wait. So parent is objecting. The third step here is the emergency guardianship is granted through Senate Bill 5837. And then mandatory counsel would be appointed to your child who is 12 and up. And then the guardian ad litem would be appointed, and they would report back to the court with the child's wishes. And then the court restricts parental rights under RCW 26.09.191. That goes back to House Bill 1901, which is the coercive control as domestic violence. And what's the outcome here? We have state-backed guardianship that enables healthcare access without parental consent. This is really bad stuff. It's very scary, and I'm a living testimony to how bad these laws are. And again, they've gotten much worse in the last few years. And people might tell you, one of the things people, like I get so much grief all the time for leaving Washington. Stay and fight. Do you guys understand that a Republican is co-sponsoring this bill that gives the state incredible authority to take a child away from their parents? Do you guys get that? Because that's what I saw in 2022. That was the first session that I was involved in legislation. At the end of session, I said to my husband, we have to leave. There is no saving Washington. The Republicans are in on this with the Democrats. There is no hope for saving Washington. Had there been hope, I'm sure we would have stayed, but there is not. And it's not just a Washington problem. The Republicans are in on it with the Democrats in DC and in every state, and even here in Florida. And so if you have minor children, please take this very seriously, and please evaluate your ability to protect your child in Washington state. And one of the things I hear often is, I have a really good relationship with my child. This won't happen to me. I had a really good relationship with my child. When a crisis comes or when your child is heavily influenced by other adults, anything can happen. And so I just want to urge you to have caution about that. Really pray about it, and see, maybe God will lead you out too. I never thought we would leave Washington. And here I am. And there's a fight everywhere. Wherever you go, you got to get in the fight. So I want to tell you about a couple other laws that have previously been passed that kind of play into this. I call it the web of legislation because everything is connected for the most part. Nothing stands on its own. So let's rewind back to 2022. We've already gone over House Bill 1901, the coercive control as domestic violence. Senate Bill 5883, and this is one that I testified on a number of times in that 2022 session as it was moving through the legislature. It's actually how I got connected with former Senator Mike Patton, who I absolutely adore. And once he left the legislature, it was like, what are we even doing in Washington, in Washington? Because he was really our biggest cheerleader and really appreciated the work that we did. And it's not the same anymore. But just want to tell you a little bit about 5883 and how it kind of links in here with this new bill, Senate Bill 5837. So 5883 expanded who can provide consent to minors for healthcare decisions. It allowed unaccompanied homeless minors to consent for routine healthcare. Now, here's something that's interesting about this particular law. As it was moving through in both the Senate and the House, on the floor, when the bill was being debated before they took a full vote from the full chamber, there were multiple attempts by the Republicans to put a provision, to put an amendment on this bill that would have required them to try to confirm that this youth was actually an unaccompanied minor, that they were indeed homeless. And the Democrats rejected that at every turn. And so really what can happen is any teenager can go to a homeless shelter or whatever, and they can just say that they're homeless and nobody has to ask any questions. A doctor doesn't have to ask any questions. A social worker doesn't have to ask any questions. They might, but they don't have to. They're not required by law to do that. So basically this really normalized bypassing parents in healthcare. And that was one of the things that had happened with us, is that we had this homeless shelter staff that was making medical decisions for our child. They also changed her medical records. They changed from our name to their name, from our address to their address. We were still her legal guardian. Nothing had changed, and they were able to go into Seattle Children's Hospital and update her files and her records. And that was before Senate Bill 5883 was passed in 2022. And so this is really, I consider it a foundational piece for really setting the stage. It's just another brick in the wall of shutting parents out of their kids' decisions and allowing children and the state to make these decisions. And then we've already talked about Senate Bill 5599 from 2023, which is, transgender trafficking or state-sanctioned kidnapping, however you want to spin it. So that I really see 5837 as the legal mechanism for 5599. I see those two tied very, very closely. And, we've seen the Democrats in Washington are really resisting the Trump administration on everything, but especially as it pertains to the transgender stuff. So I see these as being very connected. Again, I don't understand why. I said to my friend Eric, who I met through doing all this legislation. I know some of you guys, if you've watched our live streams, Eric and I have done live streams before. I said, I know I shouldn't be surprised that a Republican is co-sponsoring this, but still I am. So if you're in Holy's district, even if you're not, send an email. Don't be disrespectful, but send an email with your concerns. I'm going to have all of this written up again. It'll be on conservativeladiesofwa.com. Click on the blog. I'll have it all written up so you can see, and I'll even put like a little message that you could copy and paste into an email. But really, just be respectful and ask, why are you supporting this? Maybe he'll take his name off. He could do that. He could still do that. There's definitely time for redemption, but really once this bill is passed, if he keeps his name on it and other Republicans, one of the things that they will do is, if you've got a Republican that's co-sponsoring a bill, you'll typically get at least another or two Republicans voting yes for the policy to sort of provide cover for that. It's all a political game. It's all political theater at the expense of our kids. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand the gravity of this stuff if they haven't walked through it. And, one of the things that has been said about me by the Republicans in Washington State Legislature is I'm an angry mom. And so this is just out of anger. You're damn right, I'm angry. The state did, irreversible damage to our family. We will be fine. I mean, we will continue to heal, thanks be to God. But this didn't have to happen. And it really, my child shouldn't have had to live through that. We shouldn't have had to live through that. And so I take that anger and I turn it into passion to hopefully positively impact other families. So it's not out of vengeance or retaliation or anything like that. It is truly from a place of, I want to spare other families from going through what we went through. The other thing they love to say, and this is typical of any, I've heard it from now at a federal level as well. Julie Barrett just doesn't understand the bill. And so I'll just say I'm on the dean's list at Liberty University. I'm getting A's in all of my classes. I have a 4.0 in public policy. So that's what I have to do for my classes is read bills and, write papers and stuff on, policy reviews and things like that. So, and if I can go through this bill in, the short time that I did this morning and come on here and share it with you, there's really no excuse why a legislator would say that he didn't know this stuff was in here. That's their responsibility, is to know what is in the bill. So I want to look and see if you guys have any questions. Looking up for Jesus, I see you there. It looks like you and Joy are having a nice little chat. They're winning because they know we won't stoop for, let's see, let me put this up. They know we won't stoop to their level. There's no solving these issues through constitutional means. And sadly, you are right. I think it's gone. It's really gone so far. And that's one of the things that I noticed when I was in DC. I just really had this sadness that like our government is so out of control. It is so corrupt. It is such a game. It's all a bunch of political theater. Really, really not working for we the people. And that was very sad, but you're right. They are winning because they know we won't stoop to their level. And they know also, I think the political industrial complex knows that most citizens are too complacent or too distracted. I mean, how many people are more distracted by Tim Pool and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and TPUSA and all these different, people that are butting heads over, their disagreements on whatever the topic of the day is. And you're just not, you're so engrossed in the things that will distract you that you're not looking at these things. And I get it. It's really heavy. I had someone, one of our members, reached out and responded to an email that I had sent and was appreciating that it was something positive. And, she said, I just can't take all this negative. And I get it. It's a lot and it's heavy. We owe it to our kids though, to look at these heavy things and to see this problem. And, we have to take a little bit of responsibility too, because at least for me, from Gen X, I know that we've been sleeping at the wheel. And so it's time for us to rise up. And even if we can't change the government, we can protect our families and we can help make a difference in our local communities. So I don't see any other questions in the comment, but in the chat. But thank you guys so much for joining me. This is a really important topic. So if you live in Washington State, Senate Bill 5837, you can go to leg.wa.gov to pull it up. You can just type in 5837 on that homepage. There's a little bill window. You can just type in 5837 and it'll pull it up for you. Please go check that out. Again, I will get it up on the website, conservativeladiesofwa.com. Hopefully sometime this afternoon. I will get it up this afternoon. So hit that. I'll put it out through our Substack too. So if you're not already subscribed to our Substack, please go do that. If you would like to support Conservative Ladies of America and Conservative Ladies of Washington and Conservative Ladies of wherever, we fly under the America banner now. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber to our Substack. That is a great way to support the work that we're doing. You can also, if you're watching this on YouTube, there should be a little thanks button right under the video that you can click on to send a donation. We appreciate any support. We don't have any big donors. We're just funded by people like you who chip in where they can, and we're so grateful. We're just really trying to get the truth out and shine a light in the darkness. There is one other comment. Hold on, guys. I'll take before I sign off. FYI, I read there's a list of growing states that are working to abolish property taxes. I'm looking at them to see where we fall when we flee this chicken poop state. I know that DeSantis is working on that. That's one of his priorities for 2026, which I love. As a homesteaded, we have a homestead act. I don't know what you call it. We're homesteaded here. And so it's a deduction on your property taxes. But for homesteaded residents, you would be eligible to abolish the property tax, which is awesome. So here in Florida, there's a lot of snowbirds and a lot of rentals and things like that. So that's why that. But I think Texas is working on that as well. Kentucky, Idaho, and Florida are the ones that you're looking at. That's awesome. Well, I give high marks to Florida. I really love it here. We're super happy here. It was really, we pinch ourselves every day, and we're so grateful that we're here. So I say good things about Southwest Florida. I know that Idaho is also doing some really good things, and they have some really good conservative senators. One of them I will be doing an interview with, hopefully before Christmas. So I look forward to having him on and sharing that video with you guys as well. So thanks again for joining me today. Please do share this video far and wide. Let every parent in Washington, every parent in the US know that this is going on in Washington State. We owe it to our kids to do what we can to fight this. So thanks again, and I will see you next time.